North Carolina State, welcome to the 2015 season. Yes, you're 4-0, but you've played Troy, Eastern Kentucky, Old Dominion, and South Alabama. And yes, you are 4-0 as you were last season after playing 4 nobodies. But now it's a date against Louisville. The Cardinals not exactly tearing it up at 1-3, but have played the likes of Auburn and Clemson and the Houston Cougars as well. Let's bring in Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC to help us break down an important matchup of what could be dark horses to challenge Clemson and Florida State, Louisville, NC State. So, Mike, we got definitely a given at quarterback for NC State. Jacoby Brissett coming off a fine season, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks last year. I couldn't even tell you what he's done in 4 games because who's paid any attention to these 4 games that NC State's played, but I'm guessing he's fared pretty well. They've won handily.
Yeah, I haven't paid much attention to them either, which probably isn't a very good thing to say as an ACC sports blogger, but there are more interesting games than watching NC State go whoop up on Troy by 60 points. But Jacoby Brissett's been good, 809 yards and 6 touchdowns. I guess you better be good if you're playing nobody in the first 4 weeks in the non-conference. One interesting thing to note for NC State is the loss of Shadrach Thornton, one of the parts of their, I don't know, what seems to be a 6 or 7-headed monster in the backfield with the amount of running backs they've thrown out there over the last 4 weeks. Thornton had 203 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year, had some trouble off the field this week, got arrested for running over a student with a moped, got questioned by police, ultimately arrested, and then, there are issues, all through the week. And Dave Doran made a pretty quick decision yesterday afternoon when he found out some details that perhaps we didn't know about as a public. I mean, he made a pretty quick decision on that, dismissing Shadrach Thornton from the program. So that's an interesting part of this whole game prep this week is you just had to deal with that off the field issue with one of your better players on offense, and now he's gone. So how's the team going to react against a Louisville team that struggled? And that's, something we'll be watching this week.
The Wolfpack should just feel good about playing this game at home rather than going on the road and possibly facing who knows what kind of signs and whatnot on the road, considering the situation revolving around Shadrach Thornton. But no longer with the team. He had plenty of chances, plenty of issues, marijuana possession, misdemeanor assault against a woman, number of things going on with Thornton even before this incident. So the Louisville offense is in disarray, which isn't typically the case under Bobby Petrino. He loves the passing game. He loves having an established quarterback that he can rely on, as all coaches do, but he is a quarterback coach. He is a guy that has made his living on the passing game and developing quarterbacks, and his work is cut out for him right now. We saw the development in the opener, and we thought he had a settled situation at quarterback after the play against Auburn, but it's broken down since then, and he continues to shuffle quarterbacks around.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson sets all sorts of records last week for Louisville. He goes out and goes 15 of 22 for 212 and a touchdown, completing 68% of his passes. But it's what he did in the rushing game that was so impressive against, Samford. So I guess, take that as you will. But he carried the ball 18 times for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's school record for rushing yards in game by a quarterback. So that's impressive. Lamar Jackson can run. We know he's an athlete, 6'3" freshman. He looked pretty good in the Auburn game. Aside from that ridiculous trick play they ran when they split Bonifant out, to open up their season on offense. They split Bonifant out and they run Lamar Jackson out there and have him heave a ball down the sideline. One of the worst plays I've ever seen. And we've talked about that a couple different times now. But Lamar Jackson, outside of that play against Auburn, he looked pretty good running the ball, had 106 yards rushing. And then he played the following week, but they used him differently. He threw the ball 27 times against Houston, but we didn't really learn much about Lamar Jackson other than he can sling it around, but how accurate is he? They didn't run him at all. I mean, he had 12 carries for 16 yards, but a lot of those were kind of situations where he was dropping back to throw. They weren't like designed runs like they were against Auburn the week before. So I'm not sure what they were trying to accomplish. They ended up losing that game. So we didn't really know about much about Lamar Jackson until last week, and I guess we still don't really know much about him. And we always knew that he was a good athlete, but can he throw? And you can throw against Samford, but can you throw against an ACC opponent with some athletes that are much better? The offense has kind of been a mess. Lamar Jackson's their leading rusher, and he's a quarterback. Running at running back, Brandon Radcliffe, he's played pretty well. He's got only 200 yards rushing on the year. He's averaging less than 4 yards a carry, but has 3 touchdowns. So he's their starting running back. He carries the ball for him. A pretty good player, pretty solid, pretty reliable. They have Jalen Smith at receiver. He's got 214 yards receiving on the season. But with Louisville, it ultimately comes down to how well is the quarterback going to play, and we don't really know. I mean, Petrino said that he's settled on Lamar Jackson. It's real easy to say after you blow a team that you're supposed to blow out. I mean, you blow them out of the stadium, which is a solid win for Louisville, considering they've put up a goose egg and wins heading into that. They're about to close the first month without a win, which is kind of unfathomable. Even though they had played a tough schedule, we expected them to beat Houston. They struggled against the Cougars for most of the game, end up losing that game, and then finally get their first win last week against Samford. So it's kind of a wait and see. Who are they going to play at quarterback, and how effective is he going to be, especially in the passing game?
North Carolina State on the surface seems to be the more formidable team because they're set at quarterback. They got a senior in place who knows what he's doing, who distributes the ball where he needs to, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, doesn't turn it over. They've got the running game that you sized up for us that is very formidable. Running behind a left tackle in Joe Thuney, who is one of the best in the ACC and a potential All-American candidate. Louisville, though, we overlook the defense sometimes, and because the numbers aren't assigned there early in the season especially, but Devontae Fields coming over from TCU, a very talented player playing outside linebacker. Sheldon Rankins, one of the better players in the ACC at defensive end, causing havoc for Louisville. They're stout in the front seven. They got Keith Kelsey, a very formidable player, and James Burgess as well. While North Carolina State, their strength defensively seems to be in the secondary. They've got 2 really good safeties in Hakeem Jones and Josh Jones. So can you size this one up for us? NC State hosting Louisville. NC State has yet to play anyone. Louisville's played a murderer's row of sorts, but it's only won 1 game. So who do you like in this matchup?
Well, Louisville's a desperate team. They have a top 50 defense. However, NC State playing at home, like we've said multiple times, it's like, okay, well, you got a toss-up game, pick the home team. But NC State's got more stability on offense right now. They got a quarterback that's proven that he can play in a big-time game. He did it multiple times last year in ACC play. Jacoby Brissett's a very good quarterback, no matter who they play. That he, initially went to play at Florida. Things didn't work out there, and he transferred to NC State. But it's not like this kid doesn't have talent at quarterback. He's a very good player. They have stability there on offense. Even though they lost Shadrach Thornton, they got a lot of guys there in the backfield that can pick up the slack. Matt Dayes, 454 yards, 9 touchdowns on the year already running the football. He's been very good. Reggie Gillespie's been a pleasant surprise, 110 yards rushing on the year. And Jalen Samuels has 12 carries for 103 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's kind of the change of pace guy they've kind of brought around on jet sweeps, and they've lined him up in the backfield a bit too. He's primarily a receiver, though. Leads the team in catches with 20 catches for just shy of 230 yards and a team-leading 3 touchdowns on the year at receiver. So all in all, I think it's going to be another tight game. I think Louisville desperately needs this one, but until Bobby Petrino kind of settles on a quarterback and kind of plays to his strengths, I'm going to have to go with NC State. I'm not sure if they're going to roll with Lamar Jackson and let him play the way he's meant to play. We saw Lamar Jackson play pretty well against Auburn, but then the following week they didn't utilize him in the same way. So, I think NC State's going to game plan for the Louisville run. They're going to game plan for a runner like Lamar Jackson and try to make plays on his feet at quarterback. But, is he going to make enough plays in the passing game? That kind of remains to be seen. So I'm going to take the Wolfpack. They were my dark horse pick out of the Atlantic. Didn't pick them to win. I ultimately picked Clemson to win the Atlantic, but I thought if there was a team in there that could make some noise, I thought it was NC State, and this is their first real chance on a national stage to go out and prove that. So I'll take the Wolfpack.
Well, it's a Clemson-Florida State division. They're the 2 front runners by far, but if there are 2 teams that are going to jump up and challenge either one of them. It would be Louisville or NC State, of course, with Syracuse, BC, and Wake down at the bottom. NC State would seem to be the safe pick. They got the quarterback in place. They got the running attack. They're more of a proven commodity at this point. I'm going to jump out there with Lamar Jackson having a big game, and I love Louisville's defense. I think it's pretty formidable. They've been battle tested to date. No, they haven't survived the battles. They've lost 3 of them against 3 decent football teams. But I'm going to go Louisville upsetting NC State on the road in Raleigh. Mike McDaniel from Inside the ACC joining us to break down Louisville and NC State. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.